What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as you tune in and you check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak about this conversation that Jason Whitlock had with Isiah Thomas, right? And they talked about several things. They talked about the little man role in the NBA and how sometimes the little man don't get the respect that he's due in the NBA. Right. And also they got around to talking about a statement that Isiah made about Michael Jordan and his flu game. That's when I think Jason Whitlock had to push back on Isiah Thomas because now remember, Jason Whitlock has been known to say some crazy and some outlandish things too, right? But I think with Jason Whitlock, for him, it's all about for Jason Whitlock, it's all about like clicks and views. You know, he probably sometimes he don't even believe half of the things that he's saying, but he's just trying to get a rise out of people. He's just trying to draw attention to himself. But I think with Isiah Thomas, it's not about that. I think with Isiah Thomas, this is an issue that really is really eating Isiah Thomas up, and it's something that Isiah Thomas I think is really affect his health. So
Wembanyama versus Jalen Brunson. And I went into this series rooting for Jalen Brunson, thinking like, man, I've seen this type of leadership and energy before. I saw it with Isiah Thomas. I've seen this. And so I bet on it. Like, that's going to conquer the 7'5" guy, that giraffe that no one can deal with. And then as I thought deeper about it, Isiah, I think the entire argument, big man versus little man, is completely upside down. The big man, as the leader of the team, has a harder time winning a championship than the little man as the leader of the team. If you look at it through, like, Hakeem and Bill Russell are the actual exceptions. The other big men needed Kobe, needed Magic. And Magic's a big guy, but he's a point guard. The actual Larry Bird was a point forward. It's like the league actually favors the smarter player who has to think the game because he doesn't have overwhelming size. And so, like, Becky Hammond and all these guys, they're wrong. I'd rather have the little man that's had to think the game, or the smaller man, the playmaker that's had to think the game his entire career, than the giant who, doesn't have to jump very high to dunk, doesn't have to put as much effort into understanding the game as the little man.
See, I disagree. With I just think that you develop two different skill sets. Like, like the big man develop a different skill set. The little man has a different skill set because, the guard, they're the one who their job is to set, to run the offense, basically. The big man, his job is to protect the rim at one end and to get as close to the basket and be able to score efficiently. You know what I mean? So it's just two different skill sets. I think people just buy into, like, Hakeem Olajuwon was a leader on that Houston Rockets team, right? So they might attribute leadership to, like, thinking and stuff like that. But Hakeem Olajuwon needed Avery Johnson as a guard, to be able to get him the ball when he needed, also be able to get his other teammates involved in the offense. So I don't think that, basically they both need each other.
The argument is totally upside. The game, when played properly, is best played by the smartest playmaker. And that's what Jalen Brunson is. That's what Isiah Thomas was. That's what Magic and Bird were. That's what Michael Jordan was.
You can't be, in my opinion, a basketball fan or a sports fan and not think that somebody like Patrick Ewing wasn't intelligent. Who else? Bill Cartwright, like anybody who played the center position, Shaquille O'Neal, these guys know the game just as well as Isiah Thomas, just as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like no, Bill Russell. These guys all very intelligent basketball players. So I disagree. Isiah was intelligent. Magic was intelligent. But you also have to have the physical gifts to go along with the intelligence. And so, I don't know. And I think Isiah is going to push back a little bit on this narrative.
It is a thinking man's game. And the only thing I would shift about the argument is that whether you're big or small, that doesn't matter. It's the size of the brain that really matters. It's the intellect that you bring to the court. It's easier on the offensive side for the small man because he's always relegated to the perimeter. So therefore, he can see 9 people in front of him.
And let me tell you why. And Isiah says it's easier for on the offensive side. Why you guess it's easier for the small man on the offensive side? Because defensively, a point guard is a liability. And remember, the NBA up until recent years, the NBA has always been a one-on-one. Like you play one-on-one, and so people search for matchups. And the point guard on every team is a liability. So of course it's going to be easier on the offensive side for them because they can they can take advantage of their quickness and their speed. Whereas though on the defensive end, they are a liability because of their size. So, like I said, everybody got you. And as an athlete, you have to find ways to make up for your deficiency. Like, like Muggsy Bogues used to pressure the ball all over the court. Make it hard for the opposing team to get into their offense. Make it hard for them to bring the ball up the court. Shoot the lane so he could get steals. And so that's, everybody has to take advantage of the gifts that they have. So I wouldn't say, Bill Russell was a very intelligent basketball player.
And he can manipulate 9 people because he has the ball. Wherever the ball goes, he can control the defense. I can make the defense shift left. I can make the defense shift right. I can compress the defense. I can draw the defense out. I can make that defense do anything I want it to do because I can control it with the movement of the ball. Now, defensively, the big man has the advantage because the big man is under the basket and he has the peripheral vision of 9 people in front of him. So that's why the great communicators. So Whitlock, think football, like the middle linebacker, the Ray Lewis, he's the great communicator and he sees everything. So he can call out the defense and everything else. That's what the big man has defensively. Offensively, the little man out there, he can control it, but it's the brain size. It's not necessarily the height and the weight size. It's the brain size and the intellect that you bring to the sport that allows you to be that way. Now, what made Magic, Bird, you mentioned Jordan, and myself, why those battles were so intense and so competitive and totally on another level, because you had 4 big brains out there trying to, we scoring a basket, but then how do we outthink the other? How do we force the other into a mistake? And how do we force the other to do things that he doesn't want to do? And that's where, when you talk about Magic and Bird, Jordan, them guys came to the game with such great intellect, and to beat them, you had to match that intellect and sometimes supersede it. And that's what Brunson just did with Wemby.
With Wemby, but also, and again, I think there's a lesson in here for all of these young basketball players, because we just think size, and there is an advantage to that. But when Jalen Brunson brought something out of Karl Anthony Towns that we hadn't seen. Karl Anthony Towns was a bit of a laughing stock that everybody was joking about. And now his entire reputation has been changed. And what Brunson and that environment brought out a better.
I don't think that it was, I'm not going to give Jalen Brunson the credit for bringing that out of Karl Anthony Towns. I think, like I said, Karl Anthony Towns, the matchup between Karl Anthony Towns and Victor Wembanyama favored Karl Anthony Towns because he had the size. He could penetrate and get past him, get past Wemby. So I'm not going to, I think it's crazy to give Brunson the credit for what Karl Anthony Towns did, so I'm not buying into that either. But let me see if I can fast forward to when Isiah get to the point about his take on Michael Jordan.
Form of Karl Anthony Towns.
You don't see a one no more. You see him in the NBA and everything, but when you're walking in your daily life, you don't see like 6'10", 7 feet guys. So they have the genetics of size, and I could do that. They don't even think that way. But for us as smaller people, we have to be twice as fast, twice as good, twice as smart in order for us to compete with the genetic gifts that the big guy has.
Isiah, I want to move a little bit away from the NBA Finals. Did you say something recently about the Jordan flu game not being a flu game, or it's been misbranded, or it's a made up narrative? Did I? What was said here?
I just said we should start, as historians of the game, we should start telling the truth. And I covered that game, and we were all told that he had the flu. Then, since then, his doc came out, and he didn't have the flu. But we still promote that game as the flu game, when now we know it's not the flu game. The hero in that game was Scottie Pippen, who was so overlooked. Scottie Pippen basically was playing with a back that he should have been in the hospital with. But we didn't give Pippen the credit of playing in that game, and we saw Jordan leaning on Pippen. Pippen got a broke back, and he carrying Jordan off the court like he got the flu, but Pippen playing with a real broke back. So I'm just saying we just need to be accurate in our story.
So he's, even in describing the situation with Jordan, he's being inaccurate too, because Pippen wasn't playing with a real broke back. But Jason Whitlock is going to have to push back. And Jason Whitlock, like I said, he is somebody who don't mind, kind of like sensationalize things. But I think Jason Whitlock pushing back on Isiah Thomas because he's a friend of Isiah Thomas, and he sees that this Michael Jordan thing with Isiah Thomas is become an obsession with him, and I bet you he probably recognized that it is a unhealthy obsession with Isiah. So that's why he's going to push back.
That's all.
So do you believe Jordan was sick?
He said he said he was sick, yeah, but it was in his doc. He said he had food poisoning.
Yeah. Yeah,
so you sick from food poisoning, but you didn't have the flu. So let's not call, let's just be accurate and factual. That's all.
The ill game. He was ill. No, he wasn't ill.
Whatever you want to say, it's not the flu, but
flu-like symptom game. How about that? 38 points with flu-like symptom.
How you want to say it, you can say it, but also give the guy Scottie Pippen credit too for what he was playing with, because what he was playing with was significantly much more severe than what Jordan was playing with.
I hear you. And I say this with affection, but I don't remember Pippen scoring 38 in that game.
No, I'm not taking
Okay.
away from what Jordan did in terms of scoring and playing. I'm just saying let's be accurate historically about what we're seeing and reporting.
Can we call it the flu symptom-like and back problem game? How about?
I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying.
And he don't even really want to say Mike name. He's calling him. You know, Isaiah's like, I'm not taking away from him. You know, and so that's why I say when Jason Whitlock pushed back on Isiah Thomas, I think it's more so out of concern for his health and his, you know, his mental well-being. Isiah don't even want, he has such a dislike for Mike. He don't even want to say his name. Listen to, you know, a lot of times if he don't have to say the name Michael Jordan, he'll say him. You know, he'll say Magic and Bird all the time, and then he'll say, he'll mention Jordan in passing, but he don't really Isiah Thomas has a real unhealthy obsession with Michael Jordan.
And the narrative around that game is not accurate. That's all.
So that, you know, that's basically, you know, my thing about the Isiah Thomas. Even any other time, I think Jason Whitlock probably wouldn't have cared as much to push back on you know, because he understands that social media and Facebook and YouTube, you know, people, they use clickbait sometimes in order to get people to watch their videos and stuff like that, right? But this right here with Isiah is different. I think it's an unhealthy obsession. I think that Jason Whitlock recognized that, and so, you know, he probably gonna have to talk to this guy, man, because it's just unhealthy. That's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm gonna check y'all out in the next video. Peace.